When it comes to understanding church history, there's perhaps no topic more debated than the role of St. Peter as the first pope. The Catholic Church has long held that St. Peter was the first bishop of Rome, and by extension, the first pope. But is this claim supported by the Bible? Today we're going to dive into the scriptures and explore what the Bible really says about St. Peter's role in the early Christian church. One of the most contentious issues surrounding St. Peter's role is the idea that he was somehow elevated above the other apostles, given a special authority or power that set him apart. Some argue that Jesus' declaration in Matthew chapter 16 verse 18, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church," is evidence of this elevated status. However, others see this passage as merely a play on words, with Peter meaning rock in Greek, and Jesus simply using a clever pun to make a point about the foundation of the church. The question here then remains, what language was Jesus speaking? Most likely he was speaking Aramaic, and that Aramaic was translated into Greek by Matthew, who most agree wrote his gospel in Koine Greek, the common Greek tongue of the time. Therefore, interpretation and supposition is possible, but can we ever be 100% accurate? The Aramaic word for rock is Sepha. It's also the root of the Aramaic masculine name Cephas, which means rock. Sepha is the original Aramaic form of the nickname Jesus gave to Apostle Simon Bar Jonah, which is Peter in Greek. The Greek word Petros, Peter, is a masculine form of the Greek word Petra, which also means rock. Another point of contention is the idea that St. Peter held a position of authority over the other apostles, essentially making him a prototype for the papacy. This interpretation often hinges on verses like Galatians chapter 2 verse 9, where St. Peter is listed alongside James and John as pillars of the church. Some see this as evidence that St. Peter was seen as a leader among the apostles, but others argue that this passage is more about the apostles' shared mission and less about a hierarchical structure. The concept of St. Peter as the first pope is further complicated by the fact that the apostles themselves didn't seem to view him as superior to the others. In the book of Acts, we see St. Peter and the other apostles working together, making decisions collectively, and often deferring to each other's strengths. This communal approach to leadership seems to undermine the idea of a single authoritative figure like a pope. The early Christian church was a complex, multifaceted entity, with different leaders and communities emerging in different regions. To reduce St. Peter's role to a simple title like First Pope does a disservice to the rich diversity of the early Christian experience. Let's turn to some of the biblical references that are often cited to support or refute the idea of St. Peter as the first pope. One of the most well-known passages is Matthew 16:19, where Jesus gives St. Peter the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Some see this as evidence of St. Peter's special authority, but others argue that this passage is more about St. Peter's role as a representative of the church, rather than any individual power or authority. However, it can be seen that Jesus spoke about the kingdom of heaven and the qualifications to enter its glory. In a sense, Jesus is the original gatekeeper, and the metaphor of passing that role on to Peter does elevate him above the other apostles. Another key passage is Luke chapter 22 verses 31 to 32, where Jesus commissions St. Peter to strengthen your brothers. This passage is often seen as evidence of St. Peter's leadership role, one where he must be the person the other apostles lean on when their faith is tested or their mission unclear. But it can also be read as a call to service and support, rather than any kind of hierarchical authority. The Apostle Paul's writings are also crucial in understanding St. Peter's role. In Galatians chapter 2 verses 11 through 14, Paul confronts St. Peter about his behavior towards the Gentile Christians, highlighting the idea that even St. Peter was not above criticism or correction. This passage undermines the idea of any kind of papal infallibility, and instead presents a more nuanced picture of the apostles as flawed human leaders. However, this is a comparison between what we as modern Catholics see as a pope's ultimate authority, juxtaposed against a servant leader, the kind of pope that we expect St. Peter to be, based on the words of Christ. It is possible to say that the Bible is clear on the matter here, and it is us modern Catholics who conflate it with our own human trappings of pomp and circumstance that later became a staple of papal authority, even to this day. Historical context is also essential in understanding St. Peter's role. The early Christian church was a persecuted minority, struggling to survive in a hostile Roman environment, It's unlikely that any kind of centralized authority or papacy would have emerged in this environment, especially given the Jewish roots of the early Christian community. An American comparison would be comparing the role of president when George Washington first took office to that of current presidents, where the office and the title carries with it more weight and influence. It is logical to see the role of pope as something that did evolve, both in responsibility and in power. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence that challenges the idea of St. Peter as the first pope is the fact that the early Christian church was led by a council of elders, rather than a single bishop or pope. This collective leadership model is evident in the book of Acts, and flies in the face of any notion of papal authority. The counter to this is to look at human nature, a new role, a new church. Maybe it is not something to be looked at in a negative light when considering the role of pope, but one that should be looked at as Peter and his peers understanding that there is much they do not know, and the only way forward is together as a collective in faith. As well, it would not be the last time the Catholic Church gathered as a council to discuss and resolve conflicting issues within doctrine. The debate over St. Peter's role is also closely tied to the concept of apostolic succession, which posits that the authority of the apostles was passed down through a line of bishops. However, this idea is hotly contested among theologians, with some arguing that it's based on a flawed understanding of the early Christian church. Despite the complexities and controversies surrounding St. Peter's role, one thing is clear. The Bible does not provide a clear-cut, unambiguous picture of St. Peter as the first pope. Instead, we're left with a rich tapestry of images, each one revealing a different facet of St. Peter's complex and multifaceted role. In conclusion, the Bible's portrayal of St. Peter is far more nuanced and complex than any simplistic notion of him as just the first pope. As we delve deeper into the scriptures, we're reminded that the early Christian church was a vibrant, diverse community, full of competing voices and perspectives. And whether there's concrete evidence or not, coming from the Bible, there just might be concrete evidence staring us in the face. Jesus did say Peter would be the rock on which the church would be built. If we look at modern-day Catholicism, and we look at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City, it is clear St. Peter did eventually become that rock upon which Jesus did build his church. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the Bible to uncover what it really says about St. Peter being the first pope. If you've got thoughts or questions, leave them in the comments below, and be sure to check out my other videos. The channel is just getting started. May God bless you and keep you safe.